Okay, so welcome to our first session. Today we're going to take about 10 minutes getting comfortable. Getting comfortable when it comes to pain is key. It's very, very important that when you're exercising, when you're moving in your daily life, that you find ways to move that don't exacerbate the pain that you're experiencing. So I've got some really simple tools here with me, and we're going to go through the basics, and we're also going to practice a breathing technique that's going to help you start to release your diaphragm being one of your main breathing muscles. It sits underneath the rib cage, but it also connects with those low tummy muscles, the transverse abdominals and pelvic floor. Those guys work together synergistically to help stabilize and support your spine in everything that you do. So quite often when we're experiencing back pain, the diaphragm can be one of the issues that we've got. And if we can learn how to breathe freer, then eventually that will become a part of a positive movement pattern for you. So I'm going to pop these pillows underneath my knees, and you could do the same. Or if you're comfortable, you don't have to have pillows underneath your knees, but this has been my experience that if I have a little bit of support, it just feels much better. So having pillows underneath the knees, it helps take the load off of my back. Depending on the shape of your body or your posture when you're in a standing position, you may find that you want to have a pillow underneath the neck, or underneath the head. What I'm looking for is that when you're laying down, you're not looking this way. If you're looking back this way, it means that now the neck is too short, or you have tension in your upper body, in your cervical and your thoracic. You must be able to lay with your head flat, looking directly to the ceiling, in fact looking slightly down towards the knees. Not at the knees, but my eye gaze is actually going that way towards the very top of the wall. So if you're not able to do that, I would like you to either get a towel rolled up underneath your head right now, or even just a small pillow. So we're going to lay here and go ahead and pop the hands on top of the rib cage so my fingers are actually touching each other. I'm going to take a deep inhale in through the nose and a deep exhale out through the mouth. I'll do that 2 more times with you. Inhale in through the nose, exhale out through the mouth, and again, inhale through the nose, exhale out through the mouth. Now I want you to continue with that breathing, deep inhale in through the nose and out through the mouth, and I'm going to give you some more cues. So as you inhale in through the nose, I want you to allow for the tips of your fingers that at the moment are touching each other, they start to separate or spread apart as you inhale. And as you exhale, I want you to allow for the rib cage to soften at the front so that the fingertips come back together. That happens naturally because the ribs are expanding and contracting. So take a couple of more breaths with that in mind. Inhale in through the nose, fingertips coming apart from each other. Exhale out through the mouth, allowing for the fingertips to come closer together. Do that 1 more time. Deep inhale and a deep exhale. Now I want you to take a little bit more notice of what's happening on the outside of the ribs. So you could either keep the fingertips where they are right now, or I'd like you to bring your hands so that you're cupping your fingers around the rib cage and your elbows are wide on the mat. Now when you inhale in through the nose, I want you to try and expand what we call laterally or into the side of the rib cage. So a deep inhale in through the nose, expanding through the side of the ribs. Deep exhale out through the mouth, allowing for the ribs to soften. They soften on the sides and at the front. Let's do 2 more of them. Inhale in through the nose. The rib cage is now expanding out through the sides and up through the belly. And exhale, allow for that to soften as you expel all of your air. We're going to do 1 more here. Inhale in through the nose, expand through the rib cage at the front and the sides. And exhale, allow all that air to expel out of the body. Your last round, I want you to either place your hands at the back of the body, if you've got the shoulder flexibility to do that, or just bring your hands back to the front of your ribs if you need to. We're going to focus into the back of the rib cage though. Maybe you've got the availability in your shoulders even just to put 1 hand underneath the ribs and 1 hand onto the top of the ribs, or both hands, you decide. But now as you inhale in through the nose, I want the focus to be on expanding through the back of the rib cage. So as I inhale, my ribs open up into the floor. And as I exhale out through the mouth, my ribs completely soften. So I'm trying to allow for any tension that I'm holding to let go. Let's do that 2 more times. A deep inhale in through the nose. And a deep exhale out through the mouth to allow for the ribs to soften. On your last one, taking that awareness into the back of the rib cage. Inhale, expand into the back of the ribs. The ribs get heavier into the floor. And exhale, keep the ribs settling into the floor nice and heavy, but allow for it to be soft. Beautiful. So just by doing those breaths, it helps for A, your rib cage to expand, but B, for your diaphragm to let go as well. Your diaphragm lives underneath the rib cage. So it's important to try and allow for the muscles, the intercostals that live between the ribs to expand, and then allow for the diaphragm in turn to let go. So now we're going to take some awareness to the pelvis. The pelvis, I can feel the front of those bones at the front of my hips here. They're like 2 little headlights, and those headlights are facing the ceiling. It's important that you're comfortable while you're laying here. So I can feel that my ribs have expanded and they're heavy into the mat. Naturally, you'll probably find a little bit of space between the lower back and the mat. Maybe not in your skin and your flesh, but if you could bring awareness to the spine, to the bones deeper than the flesh, then you've probably got a little bit of space. My hands are on the front of the pelvis, my headlights, and I'm going to tilt my pelvis from the pubic bone towards the belly button, almost as if there's a clock on the front of my pelvis. I want to tilt to number 12 if my belly button is 12, and then to number 6 if my pubic bone is number 6. So I'm just going to tilt up and down, or forwards and backwards. And if I recognize that there's any area that I feel that there is pain, I don't go that far. So it doesn't matter how far you are tilting the pelvis, it matters that you're moving in an area that does not cause you pain. And this is a very, very important part of your process towards your healing, that you're learning to listen to your body and to identify what a positive movement pattern is, and this is a pattern free of pain, compared to a negative movement pattern, which is a pattern with pain. So I want to start to play within my positive movement patterns. It doesn't matter where that is, it just matters that I'm doing it. So once you've identified where you can move your back, that it doesn't cause pain, What about if you started to circle around? So if my pubic bone is number 6, my belly button is number 12, the 2 bones at the front of my pelvis on either side would be 3 and 9. So I'm going to try and move my pelvis from number 3 to number 9. Again, it doesn't matter how far I'm going. It matters that I'm comfortable in the movement that I'm doing. So how little effort does it take you, or can it take you, to perform this movement? Good movement is effortless. You know, if you look at somebody like a professional sports person, and they make that movement look so easy. So good movement is effortless and pain-free. Once I've nailed moving from 3 to 9, and that can be a very difficult one for me to get, then I'm going to try and go around the clock. So my belly button is number 12, my first hip bone is number 3, my pubic bone is number 6, and the other hip bone is number 9. So I'm going to go from number 12 down to number 3, across to number 6, up to number 9, and back to number 12. Essentially, I'm drawing a circle in my pelvis. But what's happening when I go around in that circle is it's actually mobilizing my back as well. So I can feel that my spine is starting to move a little bit freer. Let's do 2 more in the direction that you've chosen to go, within your comfort zone, and then we're going to go the other way. So from 12 I'm going to go to 9, then 6, and then around to 3. Do that a few times and just check in on your breath that you're not holding it. So I don't mind when you are inhaling or exhaling, but it does matter that you do not hold your breath when you're moving, because holding the breath creates tension, and we're trying to free your body up from the pain and the tension. Good, so bring your body back to wherever it's comfortable, that you're no longer moving. And we're going to call this position, your most comfortable position, is your neutral spine. So your neutral spine as an individual is slightly different to my neutral spine, but they're all within a certain sphere or a certain realm of positioning. So on paper, if I had the perfect spine, when I'm laying here, I would feel that the back of my pelvis, which is my bottom, is evenly wide and heavy and flat on the floor. My lumbar spine, which is where my hand is at the bottom here, around about where my belly button is, there's a little bit of space between that and the floor. This is the ideal spine. And then my rib cage is again heavy, the same as my pelvis. When I come up to my neck, there's a little bit of space between my neck and the floor. And then my head is again heavy. So my head, my rib cage, and my pelvis all have a heaviness into the floor. My low back and my neck, there's a little bit of space. That may or may not be true for you at the moment, but as your body changes because you're starting to move out of your pain cycle and into your positive movement patterns, that shape may well change and it may well move towards an ideal neutral body position. So maintaining whatever for now is your neutral or your most comfortable position, I want you to take your arms to the ceiling. I'm reaching my arms to the ceiling. The back of my rib cage is still flat on the floor. My fingers are reaching long, but my arms feel that they're heavy into the sockets. So I imagine that my arms are like star pickets that have just been dropped into the ground. When that happens, my shoulders are relaxed, my collarbones are at the front of my chest, are long and wide, and my neck and shoulders are completely relaxed. Now I'm going to reach my fingertips up to the ceiling, and as I reach my fingertips, I want to keep my head heavy, my neck relaxed, but my shoulder blades that sit on the back of my rib cage, they're now coming wider apart from each other. Then I'm going to allow gravity just to bring my arms back into the sockets, like I'm dropping those star pickets into the ground. Somebody is pulling the star pickets out of the ground, and I'm reaching my fingertips to the ceiling, but keeping my head and neck as relaxed as possible. And then I'm just allowing for those star pickets to drop back into the ground and my shoulder blades settle back closer to each other. Let's do 4 more of them. Arms reach up, and then arms just drop back in. I'm not causing any tension, and I'm not forcing anything. The idea with all of these movements today is that I'm trying to move with as much ease and as little tension as possible. So your movement from now, it may seem minute. That's absolutely fine. We're teaching your body how to move easier, and that's what matters. I know I said 4, but let's do 2 more now. And then keep one arm to the ceiling. So let's rest the left arm, but it stays at the ceiling, it stays rested there. Just reach your right arm up and down. So now I can mobilize one arm while the other arm stays steady. So my right shoulder blade is now sliding on the rib cage while my left shoulder blade stays fixed. And then try the other side. Left shoulder blade mobilizes. Right shoulder blade stays fixed. I can feel how my shoulder blade has to slide on my rib cage. A couple more times. And then we're going to alternate. So the right arm reaches up. As it comes down, the left arm reaches up. As it comes down, the right arm reaches up. And I continue in that sequence. Right arm lifting and lowering, left arm lifting and lowering. Keeping the tension out of my neck. Keeping my head and my pelvis heavy. And just allowing for my body to learn how to move a little bit freer. Good. You can bring your hands down to your sides now. And just close your eyes. And allow for any residual tension to let go through the head. Let the head be heavy into the mat. Allow for any residual tension to let go of the neck and the top of the shoulders. Allow for the shoulders and the ribs to be heavy into the mat. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And a deep breath out through the mouth. Allow for the rib cage to soften. We're going to do 3 more breaths there. A deep breath in through the nose. And a deep breath out through the mouth. 2 more. Deep breath in through the nose. The head melts into the floor as you breathe out through the mouth. And another deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Allow for the ribs to be nice and heavy. Well done. So there's some really basic exercises and breathing techniques to start to allow for your upper body to relax so that you can breathe better, and for your lower body to mobilize to start to release some of that tension in your spine. Thanks for joining me today. I want you to continue to practice these movements every single day. Even if you just do it for around about 10 minutes, that's perfect to get started. I'm going to see you in the next class.